Sorry. Back home media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Free Zone. Tonight in the Free Zone, we got Coach Dunlap from Liberal High School with us. Just, full disclosure here, I'm on the staff at Liberal High School. Coach Dunlap and I have known each other for 16, 17 years, and we've coached together for, probably half of that time. So, I'm a little more familiar with Coach Dunlap than I am some of the guys that I'm interviewing here. And but Coach Dunlap, not everybody is. So why don't you tell us about yourself and your path to becoming the head coach of the Liberal Redskins?
I'm just an old fogey player there. Went off to college, played at Butler. Lived life a little bit. Lance Stout got me into coaching. I don't know if most people know who Lance Stout is, but he was former principal at South Middle School and our superintendent, assistant soup at the time, and knew I loved the game and kind of got me back into it. And that was, 22 years ago coaching.
Yeah.
I coached 1 year middle school football and got into high school and, coaching there forever. And this will be our year 4 together, and me as the head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Coach, since, the season hasn't started yet, and one of the main things we're talking about is summer, off-season conditioning, that type of thing. How has the summer gone for the Redskins? I know we've faced some adversity. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, summer started off, started off one date, moved it, push back. And, those things happen. And then when we got our kids, those first 2 weeks, numbers were, outstanding. Numbers, kids, boys, girls, all sports. We were averaging somewhere about 102 girls a day and upwards of 95 boys a day in those first 2.5 weeks. So numbers, Coach, were out of the roof, loving it. And then we had a flare up here in Liberal, and it shut us down for 2 weeks. So,
right.
After that 2 weeks, kind of, we just slowly, you have your high days, you have your low moments, but the high outbreak here in Liberal at that time, when we had another little rush of that, kind of slowed things down for us a little bit, taking those numbers down a little bit, but the kids still working hard all summer.
Yeah. That's good. So are there any individuals you'd like to point out for their effort this summer?
Oh, yeah. And the whole freshman, all our girls, especially, but the freshman class, it seems like boys and girls come out in droves. Just great numbers. Those kids, they participate, and just our research showing they do great in the classroom, great behavior kids, great character kids in the locker room. I will give it, but individually, kid like Gus Hink, as a freshman, is 100%er. Brooks Kappelman is 100%er. Makai Husky is 100%er that we have in the weight room as freshmen, and those are your freshmen.
Yeah,
and it's great when you have young freshman leaders who are there too. But as seniors, you want to reward a kid like Malcolm Wiltshire, who's very rarely missed any days in the weight room his whole high school career in the summer. And he's dedicated himself to the weight room. Tony Rivero is a kid who has dedicated himself to the weight room for 4 years and beyond. When we really, you remember, Coach, up until this year, a lot of those kids have been in the weight room or doing our introduction to weights since they were 9 years old. So those are a couple kids I like to reward on the boys' side of things. Those are on the girls' side of things. A senior leader has been in there this summer. Has been Aubrey Warden's been in the weight room quite a bit. Reese Hay is another 100% type girl. And you want to reward that. Our cheer and dance crew, all around, every girl on there, they come out. That's an army.
Yeah, so, they work hard too. I've been real impressed. Yeah,
they work hard. Their technique and the lifts. You were there this week, and you see them while we were maxing out this week, and they get after it. I mean, those girls, when a girl gets a PR, a personal best in her lift or whatever that max was for that day, those girls celebrate it, and we love that. So definitely a big shout out to cheer and dance.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of those girls are strong. They really are. I mean, surprisingly so. Yeah.
No doubt. Tan Sieber had a 265-pound squat.
Wow.
She wasn't the only one. She had I think she was at 260. Miracle Turner was at 260. So those girls have put the time in over 4 years also to be good in the weight room and to get stronger for their sport, and it shows. If you watch our cheer and dance perform, it's exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Those girls are working hard. All right, hey, what's the schedule look like this season?
Well, for us, it's a tough schedule, and you know that. You've seen it.
Oh yeah.
There's no off week this week. There's no week where you go, man, we can take off hitting this week. We can, this week is a tough week starting week one. I mean, right down the road, that 30-minute war with Guyman, that's what starts, and they're much improved. New coaching staff, and there's no knock on the old coaching staff because I think Kyle did a great job at Guyman. It's just they now have kids that have come out and some kids that have come back to the sport, and that's made them better. Week 2, Dodge City. We know Dodge is just on an uproar. Very good team. Great. Probably the best facilities in the state of Kansas all the way around athletically. And then week 3, at Hayes. Hayes is they got some dudes. Yeah. They got some dudes.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So what do you see as some of the key games on the schedule this year? Obviously all of the WAC games are key games. I mean, I know that, but
the first key game for us, Coach, is going to be Guyman. I mean, that's obvious. We got to go out and we got to continue to do what we've done and continue to get better. But Guyman's going to be the game for us this year. Kids buying in right there. That first freshman game, the Thursday before we play. So that's going to be the big game is that Guyman game at Liberal, the first, to me, freshman game. That's going to be it. The first time we get to see real football being played. So that's what I'm looking forward to is our first game, our Guyman.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like a take them one game at a time. I understand that philosophy. Coach, we lost a lot of skill players from last year. We had great skill players last year, and we lost a lot of those guys to graduation. Who are some of the players that you're counting on to hopefully fill some of those positions?
Well, no doubt we lost quite a bit, Coach.
Yeah.
But we haven't really needed a quarterback for a while, and it's we were fortunate enough to have a kid there who was playing out of position. We both know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
For us to be successful, we played Cyrus there. But we're looking for kids like a Shaker to step up and take that job, Alex Esparza or a Tristan Juarez. So we're looking at a sophomore, a senior, and a junior to take that spot.
Right.
And then Elijah McCarter is going to be a kid that you can't replace a tailback. And like you've always said about him, I know how you feel about Elijah, but his vision, his size,
Yeah.
A lot of people worried about, him only being 5'6" and 130 pounds, but he ran pretty tough. But his vision, so we got to fill a tailback. That injury was maybe, one of two injuries that really hurt our season last year.
Oh yeah.
When you lose a kid with the natural abilities that Elijah McCarter had, so replacing him is going to be tough. That's an open spot. We're looking at Easton Zapian, really hard at that position.
Yeah, Easton, and it seems to me like Easton has matured too, and that's something that's big for a kid stepping from being a sophomore to a junior now. There's a lot of maturity that hopefully takes place in that time period for most kids, and I think we've seen that with Easton too. All right, Coach, tell us a little bit about your staff, other than the fact that you have the 5th best special teams coach in the WAC.
What I love about my staff is flexible, and we're flexible and knowledgeable and young. We have old and young, and that's what I love about it. Love having you on the staff because you understand the game. You're flexible. You can coach many positions. It's where do I need you today, Coach? Where do you need me? And that's what I love. But you also pass on that knowledge that you've learned over the years to our young guys, who that's going to make them better coaches, which makes me a better coach. But that's what I love. We're very young, but then again, you and I have been around in this game for over 20 years, and we do a lot of teaching with our young coaches, but they're willing to step up, they're willing to learn, and I feel like they work hard. You Trace and myself are kind of the long tooths.
Yeah.
And then we got some puppies there, but those puppies understand the game. Garrett Walker's a young kid who's I think is going to be a very excellent coach, and who is now, but he's only going to get better as our defensive coordinator. And definitely love the efforts that he puts in, and I think he cares about our kids, and he works them, and he works them pretty hard, and I think our kids respect and really care for Garrett. Rustin Watts, one of our young ones, he's our we're coaching him up, and that kid's going to be an excellent head coach one day because he's a sponge. Rustin just soaks it up, and offensive football, that kid knows it, and he's done a great job, and he's been in some great programs. He played for Coach Sims when he was at Fort Scott before he left for Garden, and Coach Sims has won a national title, played for a couple other national titles. So Coach Watt's been around some great coaches and been under. He was under Ryan Rhodes for a year. He's been around and he understands things. And so I think we're very fortunate for that, and have some kids with some liberal ties on our staff really helps also.
Yeah, we do. That's something to me that's nice is we've got several hometown people, and we've got a good mix, I think, of experienced coaches and young coaches. I can remember coaching Rustin Watt when he was in junior high in summer camps, working with him. I worked with the quarterbacks back in those days, and I can remember working with him then. And so, it's always fun for me to see those young guys that have come up through a program and then come back to the program. Coach, one of the things that we like to engage in a little bit here is a little bit of nostalgia. Okay. You've been a Redskin all your life. You grew up there in Liberal. So you've watched Redskin football, you've played Redskin football, you've coached Redskin football. What I'd like you to do is just tell me about a couple of your favorite memories over the years of Redskin football.
Oh, probably the first moment was probably back in '79, and that's I'm really only 3 or 4 years old back then, but that's watching us lose our first state championship. Since the '72 season, and then watching us win it in '80, being there. I'm there.
Yeah. I can remember watching that game in '80 too, even though I was from Hugoton, not from Liberal. But yeah, I watched that game in '80. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother was a teacher at the high school, and
Mhm.
my grandmother raised me, so I was there.
Mm.
You get to see those things, uh, and get to see my uncle compete for a state championship, and that goes back to my bloodline to see it all. And always just being kind of a part of the Cornelson home and the Kendall home. Who were head coaches there. It's just my blood with their kids, and me
Mhm.
being the same age and always being around. That was I was probably a little luckier than other kids my age just by having those relationships at a
Mhm.
very young age with those guys.
Yeah. Who are some of the players you remember for the Redskins over the years?
To me, people we talk about the GOAT and who's the greatest of all times, but
Yeah.
it's a great conversation.
Yeah.
But
Yes, it is.
James Witherspoon is obviously, there's
Uh-huh.
only, I tell people there's really only three GOATs that you can talk about when it comes to football. To me, there's three players, and yeah, I would like to put myself in there, but I'm not. I'm one that I'm in there, but you got James Witherspoon, Chris Brown, and Jeremy Tooman, and those kids were pretty special players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to have the opportunity to play with two of them, but to watch James as a youngster, without watching him, I don't think I have the love of the game like
Mhm.
I do. Watching Cliff Abbott play, and we both worked for Cliff, and him, watching those guys play. That's the nostalgia for me and being a young kid and actually remembering it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there have been so many great players at Liberal over the years. You talk, guys that we always talk about, um, kids that have played in the NFL, kids that have had great college careers. And then there, and yet sometimes, there are those kids that have the great high school careers that, they may have been the best player there was in high school, even if they didn't go on, to another level. And Liberal has definitely had its share of great players. Coach, here's a question for you. What do you think is the difference between you as a coach now as opposed to when you started your career 20 years ago? How have you changed over the years?
A lot more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot more relaxed, and now I am me. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, when we're young, we all have uh, that mentor, that coach that we thought we should look like,
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I was very young, I probably acted a lot like Gary Cornelson.
Mm-hmm.
Probably portrayed a lot of his attitudes and his things, but I'm not Gary. That wasn't who I am, and just letting myself come into coaching and letting kids get to know the real me, and that's what changed for me. Letting
Yeah.
kids know who I am, because when you first start out and you're a young man, you're in your early 20s. You just think about what should I look like? Should I act like such and such? And I was more of probably a version of Gary walking around than I was of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's certainly an easy thing to do. I know I was shaped by a lot of the coaches, but of course my dad was my coach in most of the things I did, and so I think it was pretty natural for me to be a lot like my dad in the way I coached. I'm probably a little less intense than my old man was, to be honest with you. But
I'm a lot less intense than Coach Cornelson. Granted,
yeah,
I mean that's a great model. He's a
yeah,
great model, and I still do things, and you know that because you've coached with both of us. I still do
yeah.
things a lot like he does. I don't, and it's not intentional. I think it's just because
No,
of
but
what's ingrained in
yeah,
me.
yeah. I think everyone that played for Gary Cornelson or coached with him, either one, has taken some of that away from. Yeah, he was a very intense, very focused coach, and as a matter of fact, to the exclusion of all else at times. I mean,
Yes.
he had that laser focus that let's be honest, a lot of great coaches have. That ability to
Very
push
few can get
everything
there,
else aside. Yeah,
no doubt.
yeah,
He did. Very few can do that, and
yeah.
that's what he did. But the one thing that I try to be more like him with now is meshing our coaches. I felt like he meshed his staff really, really well. And,
Yeah.
and I'm still getting better at that day in and day out. Even as a head coach, thinking us year one together till now, I think I let coaches coach more now than I did early. When you're first and you're young and you're new to a head coaching job, you feel like you got to do it all and it's all on you. I
Yeah.
don't feel like that anymore. I
Yeah.
feel like, I got to let you do your job so you're successful, so we're successful, and mesh it together so it works for you, for that coach personally, for the team, and for the players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of those things that it's hard for a young coach to learn too, is to let their coaches coach. It's and I agree with you. I think Gary did a great job of that, and I think you're doing a much better job of that. I mean, it's always when especially that first head coaching job. Yeah, you just you want to control everything. You want to do everything. My first head coaching job was at Cimarron, and luckily, probably my staff was all older than I was. I mean, every one of my assistant coaches, I think, was older than I was and more experienced, to be honest with you, And I think that was probably good for me, but because it kept me maybe from trying to control everything too much. But, that's a valuable lesson for a coach to learn. It really is. Yeah. Coach, your son Cyrus is headed off to Fort Hays State here Monday, I think you said, right?
Yes, sir.
And I just saw the headline today, and you said you'd gotten a text from him that about NCAA Division II and Division III have canceled their fall championships. So since you've got a son getting ready to play D2 ball, why don't you talk about that for just a moment? What kind of impact that could have on just student athletes in general? If you want to talk about Cyrus, that's great. If you want to talk about just athletes in general, what do you think could be the effect of that?
Well, I'm not going to say that they're right or that they're wrong. I understand that
Right.
they're worried about the situation and the health of people in our country, and I'm always going to agree with that side of it. When you're worried about the health component of it, the hard part is good for me is those seniors. Those seniors that have put the time in at any of those levels, and they don't have a chance to compete for a championship now. It doesn't seem. You still have your conference championship, but we all know you want to be number one when it comes down to it. When you're a competitor, you want to have that chance to win a title, and those seniors don't have that chance right now. The way it looks and what we saw.
Yeah. That's my wife. And my wife had this discussion with me. She was asking questions earlier tonight, and her question was, if it looks like colleges may not play football or actually all sports, not just football, but she was saying, so how is it that high schools think that they can do it safely? And, it's a good question. It really is. But what I pointed out to her is, my guess is that what they're more worried about in college is the crowds rather than the players. You don't have 100,000 people. While there may be a lot more high school players than there are college players across the nation, you don't have 100,000 people cram into a high school stadium to watch a high school game like you do at Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama or places like that. And so I think, to me, the reason why everybody wonders why is the NCAA being so cautious, I think it's the crowds that we're talking about that are the main reason why they have to be so cautious.
Definitely true, and I also think it's the crossing state lines.
Yeah, good point.
You look at Kansas. Most Kansas schools, we're one of the few, but most Kansas schools don't play anybody outside of Kansas.
Right.
We're you can call us Oklahoma or you can call Guyman, Kansas, whichever you would like to. We're close enough. It's like an in-state rivalry. But I think it's the crossing of state lines is what's because we don't know. You are going to eat in those states. You are going to stop in a store in those states, and it's just I think that is more so what they're worried about. the fans, the crowds are quite a bit bigger, and you know, how do you control fan base? Are they going to give everybody a temperature check? Are they
Mm-hmm.
going to run down this whole deal for fans and say, hey, are we? Is everybody safe? Has anybody traveled to this state? Has anybody traveled out of the side of the country? Has anybody gone to Italy?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't know, and I believe that's one of those deals. High school football, you more control it because it's most of the fans there are just strictly from that town and the town coming in.
Yeah. What we see nationwide is that roughly half the states in the country are proceeding with their fall sports as scheduled. Okay. About another 14, I think it is, have delayed the start of fall sports, but they're still going through fall sports. They're still having them. There are about 7 or 8 states that are pushing their fall sports. Well, now I say that they're pushing football. I'm not sure about all of their fall sports, but pushing football back until after the first of the year. So pushing it back into 2021. And I'm saying this more for the information of the people listening than for Coach Dunlap. Coach Dunlap, he hears all this stuff too. And so I just, we're getting to the point, obviously, where most of the states either have started or will start in the next week or two. Okay. And we're getting right down to that point where, decisions should have already been made and have been in most states. And to be honest with you, I think, at least here in Kansas, we don't really know what's going to happen. We're going to kind of see as we get into the season. Hopefully everything goes just fine. Hopefully we can limit exposure and do things to keep players and fans safe. But, in Kansas, we've got a lot of local control. So I think we're going to see differences from school to school.
Yes.
Yeah. And Coach, one thing we've talked about a little bit is there's been some discussion about the Wichita schools maybe not playing outside of Wichita. And that's a decision that's still going to be made in the next few days. Talk about how that could possibly impact our schedule.
What that does for us is, you look at our schedule. We got Southeast, Wichita Southeast is a much improved team, a team that we've enjoyed playing over the years. We have Wichita Catholic on our schedule this year, and of course Wichita North. We kept them on our schedule this year. So if they decide not to play outside of their conference, wow, that's 3 games that we lose. And I don't know. I'm not a part of that decision making process.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's above my pay grade. We'll just have to trust that admin. They're going to do what's best for Liberal and do what's best for our kids. But yeah, we quite possibly, if they decide that, we could lose 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something. Yeah, I mean, because basically you've got an 8-game regular season in Kansas, and then game 9 is the first round of the playoffs. So losing 3 games has a huge impact on a season. That leaves you with basically 5 regular season games. So yeah, I'm guessing schools would be scrambling to try and fill those holes in their schedule if that were to happen. Yeah. Coach, anything else you'd like to say before we take off for the evening?
No, I appreciate you having me, man. This is an awesome deal, especially for us here in Southwest Kansas. Somebody asked, were you born a football coach, or did you ever have a different vision of a career? Yeah, I was born into it, Derek.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Yep, I was born into it, man. And that's kind of one of those things. I think, like I said, just watching that 79 games, and not just that state championship game, that was a memory, but watching that season. And, that's probably the first season I can remember is that 79 season. And then that 80 season and every season upon that, whether I was gone in college, coming back, watching kids play and, enjoying our community. Football has always pulled Liberal together, and that was a beautiful thing about it. and then that's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, Coach, I'm going to let you get back to your family. Thank you very much for being with us. We really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again here before too long. It's Coach, I just want you to know that I've always enjoyed the years we've coached together, and so it's great to get you on the program and talk about it a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely appreciate that. I've enjoyed you. We couldn't do it without your knowledge. I put you kind of everywhere, and I know sometimes we might overwork you at times, but it's because I need you.
I don't think so. I think that knowledge is just the natural result of getting old, I think is what that is.
Yep. I would like to say, hey, parents, those that are listening and just around, no matter what state you're at, since that practice time is coming, if your state, please get your kids their physicals. They need their athletic physicals. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to get into a doctor's office.
Absolutely.
So to make those appointments now, because the first practice in Kansas we know is the 17th. Yep. A lot of schools will have Midnight Madness, and if your kid doesn't have that physical, they won't be a part of that. So yep. I'd be looking for that. I'd be looking on Twitter, coaches' Twitter's accounts, seeing when they're having their pad checkouts or their things of those natures, parents. So this is just one of those years where the beauty of technology is really going to help you get information because
absolutely
of the lack of contact due to COVID-19.
Yeah. Hey, how about a parent meeting? Do we have a date for a parent meeting, Coach?
We're getting that in play. It's just about how we're going to do it. Are we going to have to do it in a Zoom format? I just have to wait and get the okay from admin.
Absolutely. That's kind of what I was guessing, but I knew we hadn't talked about that today. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
Waiting to see, but it's going to come up soon before practice 1. So we just don't know the format. It may be in a Zoom format. I know how I'm doing a change in how I'm passing on information this year. We won't have a paper trail. Everything will be digital. So our parents will be able to digital and just go into their Google and get all the information of games, practice times, schedules, whatever need be, leave time, comeback times, where we're eating, what their kids are going to wear for the game. All that's going to be digital just to limit contact because, COVID's on paper too.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
we're going to try to limit as much contact as possible and social distance and do everything we can so we can have a season and we can make sure that Kansas football comes off in a great format.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you a lot for your time, Coach. We'll let you get back to your family.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And we'll see you tomorrow, Coach, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, Coach.
Yeah, you too, Coach. All right, guys. Hey, In the Free Zone with Norm is a production of Back Home Media. They've got a lot of good things going on at Back Home Media. Go to their webpage and check it out. Next week, I'm not for sure yet who we'll be talking to, but we are going to be talking a little bit about the beginning of the school year, how schools can go back to school safely, and some of the adjustments that they're making. We're going to be taking a look at hopefully a couple of different individual schools. After that, we'll get back to sport, and the football season's going to just about be upon us. We're also going to take a look at, of course, the volleyball cross country season's coming up, soccer season coming up. We'll try to focus on all sports as much as we can. Until next week, then, everybody stay safe and stay healthy and keep listening to Back Home Media. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't think it, I thought it, that's different. I said what I said and I meant it, or lamented. Words given weight without thought in a person, the way that I talk and the way that I ought to be able to pause and to say that the fault can be placed on my arm, to display for the salt, to disgrace in its arm, pray for the day they could wait for the calm. You can't control the storm, only weather it, whether it's 5 weeks and 5 days of rain sideways, or scorched earth, search for death, or water left with all the thorns, with the petals gone, settle on the breath of autumn. If the ground fits,